for the first time a very structured war game of the impending Iran-Israel conflagration. This is a conflict that could very easily spiral out of control and become a full-fledged regional war, possibly escalating into a global-level Third World War. We will be systematically analyzing the force levels involved on both the sides, the equipment profiles of both the antagonists, and then we will work out the options. To work out the options, we will also be taking a look at the pattern of recent Iranian attacks on Israel and other targets. And based on these, we will then try and extrapolate and forecast what is likely to happen. It's a tall order, but here goes. Because this conflict is likely to escalate into a regional war or worse, it would be prudent to take a look at the overall power equation between Iran population of 92 million versus 9.2 million of Israel. So when it comes to a long war, a long protracted conflict, Iran has the upper hand in terms of, the stamina, in terms of manpower resources, and that is important as we have seen what is happening in Ukraine. The total number of armed personnel on both the sides is about 1.18 million for Iran and about 665,000 for Israel. The defense expenditure of Iran is about $10.3 billion, whereas it is $27.5 billion for Israel. But don't forget that Israel has the full backing of the United States and NATO. Now let's take a quick look at the salient, ballistic missile arsenal of Iran. Iran has a total of some 3,000 ballistic, cruise, and tactical missiles. The most prominent one, and the one which has played a major part in the last two Iranian strikes, and will be the dominant aspect in any future Iranian strike, is the Shahab-3. This is a medium-range ballistic missile of about 1,600 kilometers range. Then there is the Fateh-2, the one that was used in the 1st of October strike by Iran. This is a hypersonic missile with a range of 1,200 kilometers and a maneuverable warhead. This can reach speeds of Mach 5 to Mach 25 times the speed of sound. And as such, this is a missile that cannot be intercepted by any of the existing ballistic missile defense systems. The Russians have the Iskander and they have gone through every time. The Ukrainians have just not been able to stop them, not with the Patriots, not with any other American/NATO equipment. We have the Sergil-3. This is a medium-range ballistic missile of about 2,000 kilometer range, and this is a solid-fueled missile. The Shahab-3 is a liquid-fueled missile. And then there are cruise missiles like the Khyber, like the Pave, which was used the last time. So this is the missile arsenal of Iran. And here in this photograph, you can see the Shahab-3 medium-range ballistic missile, liquid-fueled one, on display in the public squares in Tehran. And then you can see the Fateh-2 hypersonic missile onto the other side. This is the Shahab-3 liquid fuel ballistic missile, medium range ballistic missile being launched. Now let's pause for a minute and briefly examine the patterns of Iranian missile attacks. The first one took place in April 2024. Now this used a combination of 320 drones, cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. The first wave, they used about 170 Shahid drones. Now these are very slow moving, 180 kilometers per hour is the speed, and from Iran to Israel, they took 4 to 5 hours to reach their targets, and this completely had given away the surprise. Also, these are based on American GPS guidance, and the Americans were able to spoof this guidance, snarl the whole guidance system, and they shut it over Iraq and Jordan and Israel. So this can, quite obviously spoof these kind of missiles. That is why the Russians have retrofitted these with the GLONASS guidance system. Right? The second wave was of 30 Pave cruise missiles. The job of these cruise missiles was that the moment the Iron Dome battery radars light up, it is to go and home in onto those radars and hit them. Right? The main third wave of attack came with about 120 Shahab-3 liquid fuel medium range ballistic missile, like I said, 1,600 kilometers range, and they targeted the Ramon and the Navatim air base of Israel and the Signal Intelligence Collection Unit 8200 8200 at the Golan Heights. This is the one that had picked up, on all the conversations of the Iranians and had helped to strike the consulate in Damascus. The fact of the matter is that the Israeli air defense, ballistic missile defense, is one of the best in the world. Simply the best in the world. Israel is a very compact target, just 27,000 square kilometers. The Israeli anti-ballistic missile system is hooked on directly to the American anti-ballistic missile system headquartered in Colorado, right? And it is therefore has the benefit of all the inputs of the hundreds of American reconnaissance satellites, which can pick up the IR flares of each rocket as it rises into the air, right? And then they have the computational networks of computers that compute the trajectories, tell you when and where this missile that has been launched will hit. So Israel has a formidable air defense, anti-ballistic missile defense, the best in the world, right? And therefore they shot down about 97 to 98% of this barrage of Iranian drones and missiles. The drones were, without exception, almost all shot down, and we'll come into that a little later. The British, Americans and the French had provided about 200 aircraft to help shoot down these drones. Now, despite that, however, the worrying factor for military experts the world over was that about 5 of these Shahid ballistic missiles got through at the Nevatim air base. About 7 got through at the Ramon air base. They cratered the runways, they hit the storage facilities, etc. Not very much substantial damage, but it clearly gave a signal that we can penetrate. We can penetrate the densest air defense in the world. Now let's get on to the pattern of attack that we witnessed on Iran pattern of attack 1st of October 2024, just recently. This time they did not fire any drones, because the drones take a long time to get to target. They give you a hell of a lot of warning, and their intention of trying to swarm the or supersaturate the defenses does not really work, because they all got shot down en route, mostly outside the borders of Israel. This time they went straight for 182, some are saying up to 200, Shahab-3 ballistic missiles, along with the Fateh-2, some Fateh-2. How many we are not clear, but some Fateh-2 hypersonic cruise missiles whose glide vehicle can maneuver in the last phase and can avoid all kind of air defenses and is virtually unstoppable. Now, apparently, most of these Fateh 2 hypersonic missiles get through. The video coverage that we saw very clearly showed missiles impacting and exploding, and quite major explosions these were, as there is video recording evidence to that aspect. Iran said it had targeted the Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv and the air base at Nevatim and the Tel Nor air base near Tel Aviv. They also claim to have hit tank concentrations opposite Lebanon. Now, the video coverage showed a large number of impacts and explosions. Right? Israel claimed that over 90% of its missiles had hit their targets. Israel claimed it had shot down over 90%. The truth lies somewhere in between. But very definitely they did hit. Though Israel said only one person was killed, a Palestinian, and there was insignificant damage to the air base involved. The Mossad headquarters, they missed by 100 meters and 600 meters. The two missile impact creators showed that. So these are the two patterns of Iranian attack. Now let's take a look at the anti-ballistic missile defenses of Israel. Like I said, these are some of the best in the world. Israel is a very compact target. Ukraine, for example, is 6 million square kilometers. Israel is just 27,000 square kilometers. It's an easy target to defend. It's a compact target to defend. Now they've got a layered system of air and anti-ballistic missile defenses, and I said these are hyperlinked to the Colorado anti-ballistic missile defense headquarters of the Americans. So we have the Arrow 2 and 3 anti-ballistic missiles. These have about 2,400 kilometers of range. We have the American supplied Patriot, which is about 150 kilometer range. The third terminal this is an anti-ballistic missile, 150 to 200 kilometers range. These are all being replaced by the indigenous Israeli David Sling, which has got about 300 kilometers range. And finally comes the very much talked about Iron Dome. This is a tactical defense system which can take off projectiles like mortar bombs, like rockets, unguided rockets, etc. Has a range of 4 to 70 kilometers. So this is the lineup of the missiles and the anti-ballistic missile defenses which are involved in the Israel-Iran equation. What is the matrix of response options for Israel? What are the means of response they have? First, of course, is Israel's speciality, air power. Israel has the strongest airfield in the whole of the Air Force in the whole of the Middle East. And it has the F-35 Lightning stealth fighters, it has the F-15E, F-16s. The problem, as I will highlight later, is that it would need United States support if it is to launch major sustained attacks in terms of mid-air refueling and permission to overfly Arab countries like Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia and Syria. Syria and Iraq, the airspace is likely to be pretty hostile because of the Shia militias that are operating there. Of course, it will have the Israeli Air Force will always have the entire intelligence support of the American hundreds of reconnaissance satellites which are up in the air, also the AWACS, also the drones. Next, missiles. Israel has three classes of missiles: Jericho 1, Jericho 2, Jericho 3, right? The Jericho 1, of course, was a tactical ballistic missile, now mostly going out of service, 500 to 720 kilometers. Jericho 2, medium-range ballistic missile, range 1,500 kilometers. The latest is the Jericho 3, intermediate-range ballistic missile of about 4,600 kilometers to range and more, right? Unfortunately, the problem is most of these are nuclear-tipped, and they are Israel's last line of defense. So I'm not at all sure that they would be available for conventional usage. Drones. Israel has the Hiron and the Herop armed drones, as also a whole host of quad and hexacopters, which are mostly operated by the Mossad agents in situ. And then, of course, Israel has the Mossad, the super intelligence agency, one of the best in the world, the best in the world, I would say, and which has considerable capabilities for cyber attacks. They had used Tatneks last time to disable the nuclear facilities at Isfahan, and they have drones, they have IEDs, etc. They have pagers, they have walkie-talkies that explode in your face, take away your eyes and half your face, etc. So they have considerable means of capability. To sum up, air power, missiles, drones, and clandestine capabilities of Mossad. Take a look at the F-35 Lightning stealth fighter, which is the mainstay of the Israeli Air Force, the best fighter in the Israeli Air Force. Only Israel has it in the region. And then there are the F-15E fighters. There are many variants of these. I will show them to you. And then there is the F-16. These are the basic attack platforms that Israel has. Now comes the most critical aspect. The critical aspect is the distance from Israel to Iran. This is almost 2,000 kilometers plus, depending upon what route you take. So let's take these routes. See the route in blue in the north. Now this will go from Israel over Syria, over Iraq and into Iran. The next one will go over Jordan, over Syria, over Iraq and into Iran. The green one will fly over Saudi Arabia and into Iran. This is the best possible routing. The problem with all these three is you have to get permission of the countries that you have to overfly. Their stealth fighters might get through, but when you have to refuel these fighter aircraft, then your lumbering tankers, air-to-air refueling tankers, they'll get shot down unless you have the permission to use the sovereign airspace of the countries involved. And then at the bottom you see the red arrows. If Israel wants to avoid flying over the airspace of any Arab country, or going through the sovereign airspace of any Arab country, then it will take the entire sea routing, and which goes from along the Red Sea, comes out into the Gulf of Hormuz and then into Iran. Now turnaround time, this is almost 11,000 kilometers. So the problem that is going to be faced primarily is that you will need air-to-air refueling facilities. Now, Israel has very limited air-to-air refueling facilities. The Americans have about 450 to 475 KC-135 tankers, huge aircraft, which can refuel fighter planes en route. But Israel has only 7 modified Boeings and 7 modified C-130s. Right? That is the major problem for which Israel will have to bank on American support, not just tacit but physical support in terms of these. It can pull off a strike, I'll show you the resources, without American support, but then those will be limited strike. Iran's or Israel's intention has always been to try and rope in the Americans, to draw the Americans in and let them do the bulk of the dirty work. But I don't think President Joe Biden is in any mood to play ball, because this is an election year. 5th of November the presidential election starts, and because of that President Biden has absolutely ruled out some options. We will discuss them a little later. So let's take a look at what are the Israeli air power assets for the strike. We have 30 into F-15 C/D air-to-air variants of the F-15E Eagle fighter. Then we have about 25 F-15 strike variants which will be used for attack. There are 39 F-35I stealth fighters that I spoke about, and then there are about 102 F-16 multi-role aircraft that Israel has, and in attacking the Osirak reactor, it was the F-16s that were used. Now, refuelers, critical commodity. Israel has just 7 modified Boeing air-to-air refuelers. It has 7 into KC-130 modified refueler aircraft, which can't really loiter for a long time. They'll need a forward refueling air point, FARP as it is called, like they had used in the rescue attempt and on the Israel embassy, and we remember what a fiasco that was. So the F-35s could be used to do suppression of enemy air defenses, and more likely they will fly CAP, combat air patrol, to protect the attack assets that are going in. Depending on the number and type of target selected, let us say if Iran or Israel wanted to strike 2 nuclear facilities in Iran, there could be 2 strike packages, each of 8 into F-15 or F-16 aircraft, and each aircraft would carry about 2 bunker-busting bombs of the GBU-31 class. These are the ones that were used to kill Hassan Nasrallah. They would also carry 2 ARAMs, that is the air-to-air missiles for self-protection, and like I said, the F-35s would mount the combat air patrol to cover them. If you want to take a quick look at the missile strike option, let us say they decide to remove the nuclear warheads and put conventional warheads. You have the Jericho-2 MRBM on the left side and the Jericho-3 intermediate range ballistic missile range over 4,800 kilometers on the right side. Now, what is the matrix of targeting options? What could Israel attack? Critical question. Number 1 target set. It could attack nuclear installations, hit the Iran nuclear reactors or enrichment facilities at Isfahan, Tehran, Natanz, Arak, Fordo, Bushehr. Now, please don't forget that this is a very serious existential target set for Iran, and if these are hit, it will retaliate extremely strongly, and there is all-out chances of massive escalation. United States, Joe Biden has ruled out this for precisely the same reasons. A former Israeli prime minister suggested that there could be a symbolic strike on 1 facility or 2 facilities, right? But the end result in terms of getting a reaction would be the same from Israel. The next set of targets are petrochemical complexes. Iran is one of the largest producers of oil and gas, and if you hit these are massive and high visibility impact targets. I mean, even if 1 missile hits a refinery, the whole place will go up in flames, and optics wise, it's a terrific impact it will make on the world. The Iranians' missiles were more or less couldn't hit much, but the Israeli retaliation could be very, very catastrophic if they strike one of these petrochemical complexes. The problem is, Israel, if it hits these complexes, Iran has said clearly, we will take out your, Haifa port, we'll take out your petrol refining capabilities, and if Saudi Arabia has permitted overflight, we will take out the oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, in Oman, in UAE, etc., and really widen it into a regional war. So the Americans are quite unhappy with this option and not likely to permit this also. The only thing to be seen is that Joe Biden is a lame duck president. Then we have the command and control and the military target sets. Now this would include the political leadership, Ayatollah Khamenei himself, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps headquarters and the leadership. They could strike the air bases, they could strike drone and missile factories and storage sites. Now this is a proportionate response option that America would be quite happy with and is likely to allow Israel to do it, especially in view of the pressures that they are facing in terms of the November presidential elections, right? And the threat of escalation to an all-out regional war. Maybe even a global war. We must understand that the elections have a great bearing. Kamala Harris is depending upon the Palestinians and the Arabs in the United States as a captive vote bank. We know the kind of chaos that they created in the American universities, right? And if America is seen as helping Israel attack Iran, then you lost the vote of this community. Now, if you do the other way around and you don't support Israel, you've lost the votes of the very powerful Jewish lobby, financial lobby, very influential lobby in the United States. So it's a Hobson's choice. Take a look at Iran's nuclear facilities. Let's take a look at them. The green ones show you the reactors, the red ones show you the enrichment plants. So I said the major target sets would be Tehran, Natanz, Isfahan, right? And Iraq and Iraq and Isfahan. These are the major target sets. The yellow indicate the mining sites, etc., and sources of the uranium. This map shows you the petrochemical facilities of Iran. In all probability, they have two types of targets they could strike here. One is the internal production of Iran. They may choose this option because if you hit the export terminal, the Kharb oil terminal, the Bandar Abbas, the Chabahar, the port that India and the Adanis have helped to construct. If they hit this, they'll hit the Iranian oil exports, which is the main source of revenue, and therefore this is very dangerous target set. Payoffs are very good, but the dangers in terms of assured escalation are so high that you may have to think twice or thrice. So therefore, I would reckon that the target sets that the Israelis may be forced to choose unless they decide to defy a lame duck Joe Biden. And Joe Biden has been saying that they are trying to influence the American elections, the Israeli lobby. So it remains to be seen. It's a toss-up. It's all up in the air. We'll know for sure tomorrow. But in order of probability, I would say the most probable targets are the headquarters, the air bases, the missile, the factory sites that produce the drones and ballistic missiles. These are the most likely target set. Next in order of priority would be the petrochemicals, and last in terms of the dangers involved of escalation would be the nuclear facilities. So if this happens, any of these target sets are hit, what will Iran do? If Israel attacks one, two or more Iranian nuclear installation, then Iran could respond by hitting the Dimona nuclear reactor of Israel, which is the source of their nuclear program. It is buried deep underground. I'm not sure if they have those kind of bunker bursting bombs. They don't really have them, GBU kind of bombs. They have only the missiles. With the missiles, would they be able to hit so deep down? Or they would just do damage to surface facilities. Their intention or their aim plus would be to try and create a reactor meltdown. But, this is such an existential target for Iran that it will commence all-out missile and proxy attacks through all its proxies and through all its, attack vectors. Next is petrochemical site. Like I said, Iran could hit back on Haifa port, oil refineries and storage facilities in Israel. It may also hit Saudi oil facilities if Saudi Arabia has permitted overflight. And it looks like Saudi Arabia has permitted overflights because 2 days back there were reports that F-35s were seen flying over the Gulf of Hormuz. Okay. The last is command and control and military target sets. If Israel hits these, the Iranians will try and hit the Israeli political and military leadership and Mossad headquarters, hit air bases and tank concentrations. Now let's pause and take a look at how Russia and China will react. And based upon their reaction, we could even possibly see this spin absolutely out of control into not just a regional war but a global war. Chances are less, but they cannot at all be ruled out. Let me tell you how. Russia had intervened so energetically to save the Assad regime in Syria. They feel Syria and Iran are their brigades in the Middle East, and they would not like to see them go down so easily. So Russia will certainly provide satellite intelligence, electronic intelligence, and will provide early warning of the Israeli attack. Their satellites will pick up the Iranian missiles, Iranian aircraft as they take off, and they will give early warning to Iran. The Iranians have a fairly formidable air defense in terms of S-300s, their local Patriot variant that they had made in-house. And now they've been given an S-400 top-of-the-line anti-ballistic missile stroke air defense battery by the Russians. They could provide Wagner personnel to man them, possibly give them more of these S-400 facilities. It would be a payback to the United States and NATO for the arms and the cruise missiles, etc. they have supplied to Ukraine. And let's not forget, Israel just about 2 days ago attacked a Russian airbase in Syria. It attacked the Russian airbase in Syria. So therefore, it is likely that Russia will play a more energetic role than we really have given credence to them for till now. They are also quite obviously involved in their Russia-Ukraine war, but they are keen to hurt the Americans and the NATO because they have been providing long-range cruise missiles, ATACMS, HIMARS, etc. to Ukraine. Let's take a look at China. China buys the bulk of its oil from Iran. So quite obviously, if the Iran oil terminals are hit, their production sites are hit, their refineries are hit, China will urgently seek to buy oil from other sources. Now this will create a surge in oil demand and lead to huge rise in oil prices and global inflation. This will hit the global economy very hard. Already there's 10% rise in the price of oil. It had reached a low, but it is now rising. Stock markets have already started coming down. China and North Korea could also possibly supply air defense missiles and also ballistic and cruise missiles to Iran. Because you're also hitting China if you hit Iran's nuclear facility. So there are very high chances, whatever target set you use, of escalation to a full-fledged regional war. And if Russia and China step in, then there are no limits as to how much this conflict can escalate. Does the United States want that in an election year with the election coming next month? I'm not too sure. So with this, what are the conclusions? Israel will hit back. It has no option. It has been hit twice. It can't make it an everyday affair that everybody who feels upset with Israel can start firing missiles into Israel. So Israel will have to hit back. Like I said, the sheer distance, time and distance involved, imposes severe restrictions on what options Israel can adopt, and the Americans will further put constraints with its own refueling capacity of 7 Boeing refuelers modified and 7 130 transport aircraft modified into refuelers. It can mount limited, strikes. Let us say if it wanted to hit 2 nuclear plants, it would use about 2 strike packages of 8 F-16s or F-15s each carrying 2 bunker buster bombs, and the F-35s flying combat air patrol or shotgun on top. So what is the target set they might choose? If American pressure works, Israel may be forced to hit the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps headquarters, their airfields, the production factories of drones and missiles. But you can't rule out the petrochemical facilities, if not external export oriented, at least internal ones, and there is the off chance of an attack on Israel's attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. It can't take them all out. For that, it would need massive American support. I don't see that as forthcoming. Taking out one or two may be counterproductive because the facility will remain, the capability will remain, and you would have invited serious retaliation. So let's see how it pans out. The world is on the brink of a serious escalation. Thank you.